Hello, YouTube. This is Talson here. I am your host, and this is episode 3 of. I still don't have a title for this, actually. So, here's what we'll do. If you have a title for this, tell me in the comments below. If you have a suggestion for a title, tell me in the comments below, and I'll pick the best one at some point. Right. Now, I just want to start today's episode on a bit of a humorous note. You see, I have a friend who happens to be white, and she's a girl. She told me a story about her friend and her friend happens to be black, and they're really good friends, and they were kidding around one time, and her friend refers to her by the N word, and that sounded really funny to me, and I was laughing, but I was thinking, well, when was it that people started referring to white people by the N word? I mean, I don't know. Nobody tells me anything at the secret black people meaning anymore. You see what I did there? You see? Did you notice that? That is called a stereotype. This feels like an episode of Sesame Street right now for some reason. Anyway, that is the theme of today's episode. Stereotypes. I know people like Ray William Johnson and Sexy Phil have already touched upon this, but I wanted to put my own spin on it. Now, by definition, a stereotype is a commonly held public belief about a specific social group or types of individuals. Now, while they have some intertwining qualities, stereotypes and prejudices should not be confused for one another. Now, the word stereotype is actually of Greek origin, literally meaning a solid kind. It was invented by the French painter Firmin Didet, Firmin Didat, I believe is how you say his name. I'll have the links to all the stories that on the side so you can read. I don't know which way it is. I still don't know. I'm sorry. All right. Anyway, the word was originally used to describe the material for a metal painting plate created for the actual printing of paintings of artwork. Okay. Several years later, American journalist by the name of Walter Lippmann coined a metaphor of calling a stereotype a picture in our heads, saying that whether right or wrong, imagination is shaped by the pictures seen. Consequently, they lead to the stereotypes that are hard to shake. In modern English, the word was forced to refer the first reference of the modern English word meaning for stereotype was used in the 1850s in a noun meaning an image perpetuated without change. Now, some of the dynamics of stereotypes are quite interesting. For instance, I read that sociologists believe that the mental categorization or labeling is actually quite necessary and inescapable, which means that you, me, and everybody actually stereotypes, whether we know it or not. And it's perfectly okay. It just depends as to the degree that you're stereotyping and what it is that you're stereotyping that determines whether, you're an alright and stand up person or you're a racist bastard, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Now, one perspective of how to understand how stereotyping works is through categories of the in groups and out groups. Or if you're still in high school, a better translation would be the in crowds and out crowds, I guess. Now, the in group would consist of people like your jocks, rich kids, cheerleaders, people like that. And they're usually viewed as being normal, quote, normal and superior, and are generally groups of people that are associated with one and each other, and other people aspire to be with and associate with. Now, the out group is people, I guess, would be people like your glee club, your chess team, your math team, and they're generally seen as lesser and inferior to the in group. Well, certain circumstances can affect the way an individual stereotypes. For instance, studies have shown that women tend to stereotype more negatively than men. Did you know that? I don't know if you believe in that. I'm not saying if I believe in that either. It's only the studies. Read up on that on the sides, whichever way it is. Again, now actually stereotypes is quite interesting. They focus upon and thereby exaggerate the differences between groups, which creates competitions between the groups and minimizes the similarities and magnifies the differences between these two groups. This makes it seem as if groups are vastly different from one another, when in when it they might in fact actually have so much in common. For example, African Americans and Caucasians. Now, I'm sure you didn't know, but African Americans actually identify their citizenship as a very salient, as being more salient than racial background. That's to say that African Americans feel, or at least some African Americans feel more American than African. Did you know that? I don't know. Actually, some of the theories as to why people stereotypes is because it's very difficult for all the complexities of other people and individuals to all be taken in by them. Even though stereotyping in is actually inexact, it's an efficient way to mentalize, organize, and large blocks of information. Characterization is an essential human capability because enables us to simplify, predict, and organize our world. And once all of that has been stored and organized into everybody in categories, there's a human tendency to avoid processing any new and unexpected information about each individual. Now, some of the theories is that it's used as a form of anxiety to enhance self-esteem, as distinguished by putting your own person into a quote normal group and everybody else into a group as being inferior or different. I don't know. Now, an example of a modern stereotype that is still commonly used and seen today is the model minority stereotype. This is typically used with uh, minorities, and I'm gonna use Asian Americans in this example. Now, Asian Americans are stereotyped as being hardworking, politically inactive, studious, intelligent, productive, and inoffensive people who have elevated their social standing through merit and negligence. Now, you're probably thinking, hey, Kim, that sounds like it's good. That's awesome. Why would anybody hate that? Now, yes, it's true. It could be seen as a good thing. However, this label is given in contrast to other racial stereotypes, which roughly accuses certain minorities of traits such as being laziness and criminal tendencies. However, many Asian Americans believe that the model minority stereotype is demeaning and inaccurate, and it is acting to dispel this stereotype. Now, some scholars and activists, they have sources that prove that oppose the stereotype, calling it a miscalculation, a misconception, and it exaggerates the success of Asian Americans, particularly in example that Asian American students are seen as being typically smart. However, if this effect is taken by their educators, Asian American students who are actually in need of dire help and are failing or struggling academically will be overlooked. Well, so that's pretty much all I have to say about this topic today. So, comment, tell me about your experiences with stereotypes, no matter who you are. Tell me how somebody has stereotyped you, or maybe how you stereotyped somebody before. Tell me in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, subscribe. And I know I was really nervous and stuff, and I know have a lot of work to do, but I'm still new at this. So, if you have any tips, I'll be glad to hear them. Read the stories on the side. Get yourself educated, and that's good. And if you have any tips or any suggestions as to what you want us future subject for a future video to be, tell me about it in the comments below. So as always, I am Kim Talson, and you've been filled in. I'm sorry I stole that from Sexy Phil. Goodbye.